Hi everyone, thanks again for watching. As you know, Edric loves freebies and I want to help you get some freebies too. So Shrek and Ritual have very kindly given us a free consultation session as well as a free 3-session starter pack. This is limited to only 20 of our listeners, so head on over to ritualgym.com/trials and get your free consultation and starter pack with promo code EPIC Shrek. Remember, it's limited to the first 20 only, so key in promo code EPIC Shrek and back to the podcast. Then on your end, right, when you all decide to design a workout, this is something that I've always been very intrigued by, especially over at Ritual when you have workouts of the day. So first off, who are you catering to when you do these workouts of the day? And let's say, for example, if you know that these are the guys who come back every day, does that mean that we're always working on the same functional groups, or is it because you're breaking it down into different? Back in the day, we will always go by either supersetting or we'll
Split
go by
body parts.
split body parts or very specific things like isometrics or whatever it is that we need to do. So how is it so different over at Ritual, and what are the things that you do to design your workouts?
Okay, so over here, I keep in mind that who we are trying to cater to is the everyday people. And then of course every now and then we have like some guys doing some sports out there trying to really find some form of improvement in the sports that they do as well. So we generally, if you were to ask me who do we cater for, everybody. So that being the term everybody is very broad, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why the way I design my program also is very broad. And I put it as simple as possible. So we work on basic movement pattern. So we talk about basic pushing, vertical pushing, horizontal pushing, and then vertical pulling, horizontal pulling, and then your lower body, and then the hinge pattern, and then some form of locomotive as well. So when I design my workout from day to day, I'll try to ensure that every workout targets the whole body. Because here's the thing, I may have a guy who's gonna only come once a week. I'm gonna have a guy who's gonna come up to 5 or 6 times a week. So what I will normally try to ensure is that everybody goes out working their whole body. Okay, so I know some people might say, isn't that like causing some form of overtraining? Of course not. Because here's the thing. If you talk about like overtraining, there's a very high chance of overtraining if you, let's say, decided like I'm gonna do 10 sets of 10 repetitions of squats today, and then I'm gonna do this for the next 5 days. That is definitely gonna cause overtraining. Yeah, but if you do it as a full body, you can't be doing 10 sets of everything. Yeah, you probably do much lesser. So it's really in bite pieces every single day. Okay, so that's one. Okay, so the other thing is I'm also looking at the fact that like there are these guys who basically don't even know how to move well. Okay, when I say they don't know how to move well, it's like I give you an example, a very simple example. The hinge pattern, or some people would know as the deadlift. Not many people understand this movement. Yeah, and I've seen many times when people do this movement, they don't do it correctly. So with that being said, one of the way that we actually tackle this problem, we actually have variations to all this movement. Yeah, so any given point of time, 10 guys steps on the floor. These 10 guys might be from different fitness level or different fitness background. So what we do is we generalize, okay, and we just mention like, okay, so client A, this guy is a very beginner, never done any form of training before. So what we are going to make sure he do is just the movement itself, not weighted. Okay, so client B, okay, this guy has some training background. So what we're going to make him do is a weighted deadlift using a kettlebell. Yeah, so and so on. We try to cater to every. This is how we personalize things for all the individual clients down here. Yeah, so same movement pattern but different variations. Yeah, so this is usually what we want to try and look at. And then the other thing is also the other thing people always talk about, intensity. So intensity is a term that these days is being thrown everywhere. Everybody is like, oh, my workout is high intensity, bro. Oh, my workout is like I'm gonna make sure you puke after this and stuff like that. But this is where I come in and sort of like put a full stop to all those things. Especially this is also what I always keep reminding my client. My coaches. It's like our duty as a coach is not to ensure that we push the client so hard to a point that they feel dizzy or they pass out or they start puking and stuff like that. That's not our goal. Because a good coach will be able to cater to every individual. If you can just do that, that makes you just, I mean, I don't want to give a term to that, but to me, that's not a coach. Yeah, everybody can do that. If you were to train with your friend, you can tekan your friend until your friend pingsan and stuff like that. But as a coach, that's not what we're gonna do. As a coach, we're just gonna ensure that this guy gets what he needs to for today. Yeah, and we're gonna like individualize, make sure that okay, this guy is strong enough. This is his only his first session of the week. Yeah, he's feeling okay. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that I ensure that he's gonna push himself a bit harder. He's gonna lift a slightly heavier weight. Yeah, so this is what we mean by like we also want to try and we want to cater to everybody and just make sure that everybody stays safe. And the idea of training, which is something a lot of people always have this misunderstanding or like, oh, intensity means every day you have to push hard, this kind of thing. You have to make sure you sweat, you feel like your heart is about to pop out and stuff. No, that's why I say no. So if a guy is already said that I'm gonna try and make it 5 days a week for this particular week, I'm not gonna try and ask him to like, okay, I want you to ensure that you get your heart rate up to 90% every single day that you come in here. Yeah, I will definitely plan out for him to, okay, Monday we're gonna go hard. Okay, Tuesday I want you to actually slow things down a bit. Okay, Wednesday I want you to bring the intensity up again. Then after that, Thursday we take a rest, and then we're gonna come in for the other 2 days as well. And then this is how we're gonna plan it. Yeah. So you see the current thing, like because of the term high intensity, I mentioned earlier, right? High intensity is just being thrown out. Like literally, like everybody, oh, I'm doing high intensity. It's like, and to a point like these days, I find that most people actually just know how to move, but they do not know how to engage the muscle properly. That's also another issue. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there were a couple of things that you've mentioned, right? Number one is that the intensity issue, right, and the frequency.
Yeah.
It's okay to work out every day. I honestly believe that, right? It's the variation in intensity that you must have. So there was a podcast that I was listening to that time. Faraz Sahabi was on it, right? From TriStar Gym. Yeah. So he was mentioning something that to me made so much sense. I never thought about it, but it made so much sense. He was mentioning that he trains his guys to reach 70 to 80% each time. Reason why is because let's just assume it is based on hours, right? If you exercise or do a certain movement for 1 hour, and you do that over a week, then that's 7 hours in a week. But if you're doing it for 2 hours in a day and then you're completely burnt out, you won't reach that, right? So based on repetition alone, you're able to do so much more just by maintaining the 70-80% rule so that your body is rested and you're not burnt out for the next day.
Yes,
so this is how you can create the consistency as we go along. You were also mentioning about the particular training method as well, right? When it came to things like the deadlifts, the hinge movements, the locomotives, right? What were the common things that you were actually seeing in terms of the issues with deadlifts? Were they using their backs too much, using the arms to pull instead? What was it?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. In general, like a lot of people, because you see, we are in this time where most of us tend to do our work on our desk. So we pretty much sit a lot. Okay, sitting a lot, and then and for many people, we are just living a very sedentary lifestyle, like not much activity and stuff. So generally, you see, the way I look at it, humans are anterior dominant. Okay, so I give you a very simple example. Pushing and pulling, which one will be easier?
Well, naturally, we would think it's pushing.
Pushing, of course. Yes, it's definitely easier to push. Most people should be able to push something overhead, right? But if I ask you to pull yourself up, I mean, not making fun now, but these days, not many people actually.
Easier to do than Yeah, bench press is a lot easier to do than a pull-up.
A pull-up, exactly, right? Yeah. So you see, like most of us are just made strong anterior. So our posterior is pretty much like for many people, the switch off has been like not functioning for the last many years for some of them. Okay, so now when I ask them to do a hinge pattern, right, they do not know there's this muscle called the hamstrings. So they do not even know how to engage that muscle. Yeah, so when they suddenly, like when you put them in a position, then they realize like, hey, why am I feeling a stretch at the back of my legs, which is the hamstring muscle, right? And they don't like that feeling. So they don't like that feeling. So they try to transfer that feeling elsewhere. So when they transfer that feeling elsewhere, then the movement looks a lot more like a squat, which is a lot more natural for many people to just sit and stare, yeah, which is a squat motion, right? Yeah. So for a person to bow down and lift something up, I mean, how many times we always hear, oh, when you leave something on the floor, make sure you squat down and lift up, right? Yeah, because generally a lot of people are strong on their quads, so they will not hurt themselves. But when you ask them to bend down, what's going to happen is they're not going to engage their hamstrings, they're just going to engage their lower back. And that's why people say, oh, deadlift is a very dangerous movement. Dangerous movement if you do it wrongly, but it's actually a very important movement because it's something that you need to ensure that the posterior stays active. And if not, I mean, for many people, it's like that muscle not being active, meaning you will be anteriorly a lot more stronger. So a lot of you will depend a lot more everything on the front. So eventually there will be a lot of imbalance. And once this imbalance comes in, there's also things like injuries because of overuse of a certain muscle and underuse of a particular muscle.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are your top 3 exercises for hamstrings? Something that some people can do at home.
Yeah. So a simple way to actually activate the hamstring, right, is just to practice the movement first. Practice the movement of bowing down. Okay. So here's the thing: when we bow down, what we don't want is we don't want to end up rounding our back. Yeah. So we want to try and ensure we stay upright. Okay. And then when we actually bow down, it's actually hinging at the hips. Okay, not bending the knees. Okay, so bending the knees, the difference is when you bend the knees, that becomes a lot more of a squat movement. Okay, so that's one way to activate the hamstring. And then the other way is to lie down flat on the ground. Okay, so I call this exercise is known as the glute bridge. So basically, you just want to lie down flat on the ground and then put your feet flat on the floor. Okay, so you will actually basically your knees will form like a 90 degrees, right? Yeah. So from there, you raise your hips off the floor.
Okay.
That will definitely hit the hamstring and the other muscle that is actually that is actually very important, a very big muscle, which is your glutes, also known as the backside. Yeah. So there's also another muscle that is actually not being used. So this is something I would, this is the 2 things that I would always encourage people. Like, if let's say you don't have access to the gym, right, the simplest thing you do is just these 2 things. Yeah, just to get some form of activation on your hamstrings.
Right. And okay, one of the reasons why I'm asking this as well is because, number one, right, like what you mentioned, the truth is that people neglect the hamstring. My truth is that I hate doing hamstring curls in the gym because that sucks. It just hurts like hell, right? But like what you mentioned, over time as we age, somehow or rather, the hamstring, if it's not well stretched out, it's not strong enough, it affects your calves, it affects everything else. So it's just an entire chain of problems after that. My go-to has always been of course, the deadlift, stiff-legged deadlifts if necessary, and gorilla swings, kettlebell swings. So that stuff is, man, that thing burned my hamstrings like crazy, and it was super useful.
Okay, so with that being said, also, I would just interject you a bit. So when it comes to doing exercise movements, right? So I will always tell a lot of people that you also have to evolve with your exercise. Myself, I've seen myself evolve with my exercise, being like say example, I don't see a need for me to be able to squat 2 times my body weight anymore. I don't see a need for me to deadlift 2 times my body weight anymore.
Right.
The reason is because at this point of time, I I will not consider myself as an athlete anymore. Yeah, back then, yes. Yeah, but now I would rather call myself as I'm a generalist. I'm just doing this for the sake of health. Yeah. So
Right.
look at the way when you plan your workout, you want to be able to do this for the next 10, 20, or even 30 years from now. Like like for myself, I mean, I'm turning 40 already. So I want to be able to do this if I'm going to live for the next 20 years. And if with that being said, what I'm doing now, I don't think I will be doing when I'm 60 years old.
Yep.
So it's really about like trying to ensure that you also evolve your training and think about training as a lot more of for longevity purposes, as opposed to just like training. A lot of people like this. I mean, I'm not saying you cannot train to lose some weight. You cannot train to have a six pack or a big bicep. I mean, these are all some small goals that some people have. But my advice is don't let this be the main reason why you are training. Yeah, always remember training should be because you want to do this for your health.
It's not about the vanity goals that we used to have, like back in the day we were, we love the hyper masculine aspects.
Yeah.
Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, your Stallones, and your
Yeah.
Jean-Claude
Yeah.
Van Dammes, and all the action heroes that we saw before. But now it's more about what the goal is about driving general health. In my view, was general health was it's always about mobility, and functional strength. There's no point having it's like what they say, there's no point having big biceps when you can't even carry groceries, from the store.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's more of that we're thinking about exercises that we work on every day, that we should have a certain flexibility and mobility and balance between strength and flexibility as well.
That's right.
But when you do all of this right now, one thing I also wanted to ask you, right, is how are you integrating tech with all of this? The biggest fad for the longest time was getting your Fitbit, getting your Google smartwatch, or whatever it was, for things like heart rate monitors and all. But all in all, if you don't know how to use it, what's the point in having it? So what would you actually recommend, right, in a basic understanding of how to use this technology to improve our exercise programs?
Okay, so here's my take on tech. And once again, this is purely my opinion. So I hope I'm not going to offend anybody. Personally, I use tech. I mean, I have a Garmin myself. Okay, so sometimes when I do my run, I like to know like how far have I been running, or what kind of pace am I running at, what's my heart rate, where is my heart rate zone and stuff like that. So here's the thing: if I were to introduce this to somebody who's very new, it is actually going to complicate things for them. So they're going to probably spend a lot more time trying to figure out where should my heart rate be and stuff like that, as opposed to getting the work done. So if there's anything, I would say a simple step tracker, that's all we need for a start, especially for very new guys, right? Because you just want to like have a simple goal of like, okay, I'm going to ensure that every day I'm going to hit about 10,000 steps. I know, once again, like I said, this sounds all very general, right? But this is exactly what these guys need for a start.
Right.
Okay, and then once you get deeper into it, then you start to actually like see if there's actually a benefit to see whether like, I need to know where my heart rate zone is exactly and stuff like that. Personally, myself, I don't use that all the time. Like once in a blue moon, I just want to ensure that when, let's say when I do my HIIT workout, I just want to ensure that my heart rate actually goes back to rest before I hit my next set. Yeah, so that's the only time I actually look. And sometimes, to be honest, I don't even, because I've already said this is the work to rest ratio that I'm going to work with. I'm just going to stick with that. So during the period where I'm resting, I just ensure like I do proper breathing technique just to get myself rested, and then I hit hard again on the next set. Yeah. So with tech, that's my thing on tech. I mean, it is useful if let's say you are trying to beat your personal best for your half marathon. Yeah, these things definitely come into play. But if you are the everyday guy trying to stay fit or trying to lose a bit of weight, the last thing you want is to depend too much on this tech.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Um, Now, you mentioned 10,000 steps. It always sounds like such a daunting task, you know. Oh, 10,000
Mm.
steps. It's like I told you 10,000 reps. You'd be like, are you crazy? But
Yeah.
10,000 steps, let's put it into context. What exactly is 10,000 steps? How far is that? How, how much effort really is 10,000 steps?
Okay, 10,000 steps should roughly be about 3 to 4 kilometers. I mean, I guess it's
I see.
person to person because
Yeah.
depends on their stride.
Depends on the length of your stride. Lah.
Stride, yes, that's right, that's right.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm talking about 3 to 4 kilometers. So I know for many people that, oh, I usually go down my block and my bus stop is just in front of me. So I don't really walk so much. Yeah. So here's the thing. I mean, a simple way you can actually try and work around it. I mean, always remember this. You set yourself this goal. Sometimes you will hit it. Sometimes you will don't. You might not hit it. Don't just kill yourself because like, oh, I didn't hit my goal, so I'm just gonna go hard on myself, that kind of thing. Or maybe I'm just gonna make it up tomorrow. I'm gonna run 10 kilometers. That's the last thing you want to do, because you see, these are the kind of mindset that is not sustainable. Yeah. So once again, you see, I will always talk about longevity, sustainability. Yeah. So with that being said, like, okay, now I'm trying to hit that 10,000 steps. Yeah. Just find ways. I mean, as opposed to like, if let's say, I mean, if it's possible, like, instead of taking the bus stop that is close to you, maybe take the next bus stop. Yeah, so simple things like this. I mean, all these can. I mean, I'm just giving you an example. I'm not saying that this is the only way to work around it. Yeah, and I'm very sure, like, you guys are a lot more smarter to be thinking of ways to work around this. Yeah, and if you are not so sure, of course, I mean, that's the reason why there's myself, people like us, coaches around now. Because come to us, and obviously we're gonna help you out around this, how to actually work around all these things. Yeah.